The topic for this morning
今天早上的主题是
largely was inspired by the time we spent
很大程度上
over the winter retreat weekend, and it was really a winter retreat.
在真的现在冬天真的是很寒冷。
But I found out it
的
was
确是
colder
冬
in
日
St.
的这
Louis
个
than it
进修
was
营
in Chicago.
在芝加哥
That's what somebody told me. We got down to 9 degrees below, and they got down
我
to
们在这里
22
的
degrees
是
below
零下19度，
0 Fahrenheit. Brr. Winter retreat.
的确是
So
名
during
副
the
其
winter
实的
retreat,
冬日进
what
修
was it
营。
like in Florida? It got cold a little bit. 19. Brr. Florida.
零下19度，
Or orange trees. They freaked out, right? Everything did. So the on the topic of Sanatana Goswami's visit
关于 Sanatana Goswami 的拜访的主题，他拜访
Puri, Anchilila chapter
拜
4,
访
there
Puri，
was this expression
在
of
第4章，
the very, we'll show you, the very first verse
我会给大家看，会
of
给大家看这个诗
Anchilila
节。
chapter 4 was
安加利拉
expressing
第4章
that the
表达
chapter
的
was
是
going to discuss
这
Chaitanya
个这一
Mahaprabhu's
章表
examining
达的是主 Chaitanya 是如何
Sanatana
检验
Goswami.
或考验 Sanatana Goswami 的。
Now, in our Western culture at least, exams are kind of intimidating,
Recording in
generally speaking. You know, there's a lot of preparation for exams, and it's like, you know, you're up or you're down. It's like not good. But Mahaprabhu's examining go ahead, change it up. Mahaprabhu's examining. Not much better. Go, go, go. Not that much. Mahaprabhu's examining Sanatana
Mahaprabhu
Goswami
考验了
was
他
not that
Sanatana
kind,
Goswami，
and it's not that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not omniscient and he didn't know.
Chaitanya
He
Mahaprabhu
just
那
wanted
个
to
时
examine
候
that kind of exam.
他观察到
And our
一
exams in
让他
life
不
are
满的
also
一
not
点，
like that. If you know, in devotional service, they're not like that. But the application point
那么这个应用的一个点，从中应用，让我们应用的一个点是，
technology
哦，
demigods
现在这个出现了这个技术问题了，请大家等一会儿。
Okay, we're back in action.
OK， 那我们
Something
再
at
用
least.
前面的那一个吧。
Let them, they'll fix it. Mahaprabhu was demonstrating a
他
particular
演示
kind
了
of kindness
出了一个榜样，他显示出了一种特
to
别的仁
put
慈，
by putting Sanatana Goswami
通过
from
把
beginning to the
Sanatana
middle to the
Goswami
end
放在
in a
从一开始到中间到最后，
absolutely helpless situation.
把它放在了一种完全无助的状态当中。
And anyway he turned to find a solution to the
但是不管怎
problem,
么样，
the door was
他
closed and the door was
找到
closed and the
了
door
解
was
决问
closed
题
and the door
的
was closed.
解决方法啊，通过
He was
就是一开始
examining.
就是一扇一扇的门被关着了。
And on the other
他
side
通
of
过
that
他被考
examination,
验了，他经历了各种考
Sanatana
试考
Goswami
验。 在这种考验当中
And
萨曼
Haridas
努斯瓦
Thakur
米
realized
Haridas Thakur
that he
觉悟
was
到
such a special, special,
是
special
他
recipient
是如此特
of the
殊、特
mercy of
殊、特殊
Chaitanya
的接
Mahaprabhu
收
by this
主切他的马哈普的接
examination.
收者，通过
So
做出这
there's
样
a
的
practical
榜样，
application that's going to come at the
这
end,
是
but
一个
I'm
实
mentioning
际
at the
的
beginning
应用。
also. We're also
一开
sometimes
始也是
examined,
这样
yes?
的，我
We
们有的时
sometimes
候
meet
也受到
difficulty,
考
yes?
验，有
More
的
than
时候我们
sometimes.
感觉到很困难，得
We
到
meet
一个困难
difficulties.
的考验。
And when we meet difficulties,
当我们处
somebody's
在困境
watching,
当中的时候，有的
and we
人
know
在
who's
观
watching.
看着，我们都知道谁
And
在观
then
看着，
from that
见证
position,
着。
we have
从那
choices
个
when somebody's
地位
watching.
上，
And
当一
depends
个人
on
当有
what your
人
shelter
观看的
is,
时候，我们
where your
要去
attention
依靠
goes.
我们的庇护所，我们的注意力会去向哪里？
The examinations or the tests, the
这
tribulations,
个考
etc.,
验，
etc., can
或
be
者
seen in a
是
negative way.
在
They can
艰难
also be
困苦当
seen
中
in
的考
a
验，可
mercy
以以
way.
一种
And
负
that's
面的
the
方式
message
展
for
示
this
出来，
morning.
或者是以一种仁慈的方式展示出
So
来。
we can examine
我们
the
会
strength of
受
our
到考
shelter
验，
by
我
how
们
we
要
respond
去，
to circumstances, both
我
plus and
们
minus,
要去怎么样去
prosperity,
对各种情
receiving,
况做出任
opulence,
何
and
的一种反
everything's
应。在任何时候，我们
going
要依
better
靠
than
我
we
们的
thought
庇
it
护
could
所。
possibly go. And how do we
我
respond
们
to
在这
that?
种情况
And
下，
how do we
要
respond
去
to when it
千方
goes
百
the other
计的
direction?
想到各种样的
Or,
可能的方
the
法，
in-between position.
在
So
考验
the
的过程当中，
strength of our shelter is a
我
measure
们的
of
托
our
庇者的
bhakti.
力量，
So the
跟我们的
Sanskrit,
bhakti
not Sanskrit, the Bengali phrase
是
that's
成
used
正比的。
in
在这里用了一个梵文词，
this Antya Lila chapter 4 is
这是安提利拉
there
第
are
4
different
章当中 师节用的一个
ways in which
词，
it is used, but the root is
用了不
prikshit
同的。
or
这
prikshilun.
个词根是 parikshunum，
And the opening
它
verse we'll see
这个
shortly
词呢被
is
以各种
where
方法应用的。在这里
Krishnadas Kaviraj in the
，Krishnadas
first verse
Kaviraj 在第一个
of
世节
Antya
当中，
Lila does what he does to the first verse of
Antya
every
Lila
chapter of Chaitanya
在
Charitamrita. He, in a
铁
capsule
坛的
form,
它的每一
summarizes
个
what's the message of that
每一个章节当中呢，都总结了，
chapter.
已经
And
以
Prikshilun,
检验的语言进行
he
了总结。
says, Krishnadas Kaviraj says,
Krishnadas Kaviraj 说道
Chaitanya Mahaprabhu examined.
，Chaitanya
He did two
Mahaprabhu
things. He
他
he
检验了
protected
从检验了2点，
Sanatana
他保护
Goswami
了
from committing
Sanatana
suicide by
Goswami
his affection,
他保护了 Sanatana Goswami
and
没有去
he
自杀，
examined him.
并且他去考验了他，检验了他，
And he passed the exam because
并
he
且
the purpose of the
Sanatana Goswami 他通
exam
过了考
was
验，
to strengthen,
通过
not that
因为他
Sanatana
通过
Goswami
这
had
个
material
考验来，
attachments,
主持他
but
的
to
马哈普是
strengthen
为了加
the
强他的力量，
spiritual attachment, the
是加
firm
强他的
devotion,
灵性的依
dridha
恋，他的
bhakti.
加强他
And
的
this same
坚定不
dridha
移的
bhakti,
bhakti，
firm
Drita
devotion,
bhakti，
is
有
found in
着坚定不移
another
的
section
奉
of
爱，
Srimad
在
Bhagavatam, which we'll
正典
begin
国家瓦
discussing.
坛的一个
At
部分当
the
中写的，
chapter, the section of
正
Srimad
典国家瓦
Bhagavatam
坛
is Canto 10, Chapter 70.
第10篇第
Chapter 70 is
17
entitled
第70
Krishna's
章
Daily Activities.
70章的标题是 Krishna
So it
的日常
describes what
活动，
Krishna does from,
在
first
这一
thing in the
章里
morning.
描述了 Krishna 每
When the
天
rooster
从每天
crows,
早上
it's
所进行的日常
It's
活
his
动。
alarm clock. He gets up and does his
他
morning,
从这个
etc., etc.
公
And
鸡报
he,
晓的
without
时候
all
就
of
起
that, he
床，
gets to the point where 16,108 Krishnas get into a chariot. I don't know if the
然后
chariot
Krishna
driver for each
他
one is the same Daruka.
Krishna 他
It doesn't say
驾驶着他的
how many
Krishna
Darukas
坐
are
上他
there.
的战车，
But he gets into his
他
chariot
的这
driven
个
by
皇后呢
Daruka.
就
He
有
goes to the
16108
assembly hall,
位，不知道他
and all
他
the
的奉献者
Krishnas
可
come
想而知
together
了。
into one
然后他
Krishna, and he
坐
enters
着
the
他的
assembly
战
hall,
车
one
去到
Krishna.
这个会议厅，
And then he does what he does in the assembly hall.
然后他就
And
做了他在会议厅
that's
里
how the
该做的
chapter
事儿。
begins. And then at
这
that
是这一
point,
章的开始写到
entering
的。
the Dwarka assembly hall, a messenger bowed down
那
to
么在
Krishna
他 就在那个时候，
And with joined
在
palms, he
有
described
一
to
位
the
使
Lord
者走
how a
进
number of
了
kings were
多尔塔
suffering
的会议厅，
because
向他汇报了
Jarasandha had
很多
imprisoned
国
them.
王，在受苦，因为 Jarasandha 将这些国
Now,
王们
these
囚禁起来了。
kings,
这些国王
in the
们，
beginning part of the chapter, it says there were 20,000
在
kings.
那么在一开始的章节
And
当中
towards
说
the
到
end of the
有
description of what
20800
Krishna
位
promises to
君王。
do, when he
然后
delivers them,
Krishna
which
他
comes
承诺说他
three
将做，
chapters later, the number went up.
这是在后面的章节里讲到了，3个
20,800
章节之
kings.
后讲到了。那当
That's
时
a
的
lot of
被囚
kings.
禁的君王有20800位，这是一个很大的数目。
Now, why were they imprisoned?
为什么他们被囚禁起来呢？
Just a little background, so we get the
我们来介
landscape.
绍一下其中的背景，这样呢便于了
Maharaj
解。
Yudhisthira
Yudhisthira
had been given a
他有
kingdom in
他
Indraprastha
被授予
by
了王国
the arrangement of
Indraprastha，
Dhritarashtra.
在
When it came time to,
的安排下，
what to do when they came back
当他回来
from
之
their
后，当他们回来之后，
their
从他
days
们
of
的
being in exile, they came back.
流放的生涯回
And then there
回
was a
来之
big,
后，
assembly, what to do, and
然
Dhritarashtra,
后呢就开了一个巨
for
大的
whatever
会
the
议，
reason,
商量着怎么
judiciously
做，怎么
decided
做。
give them
然后
some kingdom to
最
rule.
后决定是
And they
给
made
他们
Indraprastha
一
their
些王
capital,
国
and
去进行
they built a
统治。
capital. And he was
然
there
后他
for
们就
some
在这
time
个地
in
方呢建立了
Indraprastha.
他们的首府，在
And then
Indraprastha 建立
the
了
point
他们的首府。
in this same chapter, 70,
在同样的章节
Narada
第
is
70
going
章
to
当中
inform
，Narada 去
Krishna
告诉 Krishna，
Narada comes from Indraprastha.
Narada 来了，
While this messenger is
去的
standing in
从
front of Krishna, you see a nice painting.
从
And
Indraprastha 来到
he
了
wants
Dwarka， 对，
to
告诉
convey a
Krishna
message
说，
from Yudhisthira. And the message from Yudhisthira
他想把
is Yudhisthira
Krishna，
would
他
like
想把
Krishna to
Yudhisthira
come
的信息传递给
to
Krishna， 因
Indraprastha
为
so he could perform
Yudhisthira
the Rajasuya Yajna,
他
which
想邀
indicates
请
he's the
Krishna 去
emperor of the
参加
world.
Rajas 在
But
Indraprastha 举行的
there's an
Rajasuya
obstacle, and that obstacle
但是
was
呢有一个
Jarasandha
困难，
because Jarasandha had the same
那个障
idea.
碍就是 Jarasandha，
He's a competitor,
他是竞
Jarasandha,
争对手。
not just Duryodhana, but
Jarasandha.
Jarasandha.
他不仅
His
不仅
idea was he
Duryodhana
would
是他的
become the
竞争
emperor
对
by
手
conquering
，Jarasandha 也
kings
是
in
他的
all
竞争对手。
directions. And if they
所以
didn't submit to him,
如果他们
the
Jarasandha 这
customary
样的国
thing
王不
was there would be a
去向他
battle,
们俯首称
and then
臣
the
的话，
victor
那就得
would
跟对
prevail over
方
that
去宣
kingdom.
战，然后
So in
让他
his
们俯
case,
首称臣。
Jarasandha
在
didn't do
加
battle
上的
with
这种
them.
情况
He
下，
arrested them,
他们
put
并
them
没
in
有跟
prison
他们
because his
他们并没
idea
有跟
was
这
these
些国王
20,000
们宣
kings,
战，而是将这些国王
20,000
们
kings,
囚禁起来了，
20,800
并
kings
且他囚
should be
禁了
offered as a human
20800
sacrifice.
想把这
He
些
was a bad
君
guy,
王们做人祭，
Jarasandha, to
这就是
Mahabhairava, a
做的
form of
事儿。
Lord Shiva. And he would get some
他那
Shiva
个时候
Punya
崇拜主
points.
希瓦，想把这些君王们当做
It's
人
called
祭去崇
Duskriti.
拜主希瓦。
Kriti by offering something to Lord Shiva for the purpose of controlling,
祭就是通
to
过
become the
给希
emperor.
瓦做
He was
献
a
祭，
competitor.
然
So
后
he,
他想成为
Jarasandha,
帝王。
disliked
这
Krishna
Jarasandha
too much.
他特
So
别
when
的
this messenger
厌憎 Krishna。
arrived,
当这个使者
just
到
before
来
the
的时候，
messenger arrived, it doesn't say it in the
就在
Bhagavatam,
这
but it
个
says it in the commentaries
圣
later.
典博伽瓦坛里
The
面
whole
说到了，
assembly was
就在
discussing
这
what
个
to
使
do
者
with
到来之
Jarasandha.
后不久，
And
他
the
们
idea
正
was
会
he
正
should
在
be
讨论
killed.
的怎么样去对
We're
付
going to hear
加尔桑达。
shortly. The younger
我们待会儿会
members
聆
of
听
the
到
Yadu dynasty,
亚
Aniruddha,
度王朝的
etc.,
阿尼鲁达等等
massive
这些年轻的成
numbers
员，
of of Kshatriyas, they wanted
他
battle.
们都是 Kshatriya， 他们
They
想要
were
去打仗，
Kshatriyas. They wanted battle
他们是 Kshatriya， 他们想要
with
战
Jarasandha
争
and
打
his
仗，
all his
跟
armies.
加尔桑达打
But
仗。
how many times had Jarasandha attacked
加尔桑达他
Mathura?
进
17
攻
times.
了马出了多少
And
次
the,
呢？
the
进
starting
攻了
number
17次。
was 8 Akshohinis,
这
and
个
then
一
it
开
came
始
to
他一
something I
开始的
forget,
时候是
13,
带着很
whatever,
大
some
的
number of
阵
the
营，
18th time. By this time, he has 100
这
Akshohini
一次
divisions.
这个时候他
He's a
带
powerful
这一次
guy,
他带领了100
and he's
个
as
方阵
powerful
队
as
伍，
according to what
所以
the,
呢
the
加尔桑
Bhagavatam
的
says,
根据博伽马
10,000
坛描述
elephants.
说加尔桑
He's
的有10
undefeatable.
万头大象的
What
力
to
量，
speak of his
1
armies.
万头
And the
大
Yadu
象的力
younger
量。
generation,
而这个
they
亚度
wanted
的
to
年轻的后代
go at it with
他们
Jarasandha and his armies.
想要跟
They
加
were
尔桑的
eager
对弈，
for
他们
combat.
迫不及
In
待
Kshatriya
的
spirit,
想要跟这个加尔桑的
because
进
he's
行交战，
because
用
he's such
他
a
们
demon.
越
So
越
they
一战
wanted to deal with this demon
所以呢，他们
and
想
use
因为加
their,
尔桑呢是
you know,
恶魔，
because
所以呢，他们想对付这个恶魔，
protection, because there's so many innocent people being
因为
these
有那么多的无
20,000
辜的人。
kings. Aside from they said no to Jarasandha, who won't submit because they were submitted to Krishna, and he knew that.
他们
So they
完
said
全的
no
臣服于
because they're
Krishna，
Krishna's
他们知道
devotees.
这一点，他们
So
都是
instead of
Krishna 的奉
defeating him
献
in
者，
battle, which he could have done,
所以呢，
he put him in a prison.
那么这些
And it was
国王
explicit.
呢，并没
They
有在
knew
战场上战输，但是
they
他
were being
们却被
tortured.
加尔桑的囚
We'll
禁起
hear
来
some more
了，并且
as we go along.
受到百般的折磨。
So they sent a messenger, and the
所以呢，他
messenger
们这
had
些
the
国王
following
们
message. Oh, this is this
请了
long
一位
section. I
使
just
者
took some parts of
去
it.
带去
O
向
Lord,
Krishna 捎去消息。哦，主啊，
humility. With this
这
corpse-like
是一
body,
种谦卑的显示。
always
哦，
full
主
of
啊，
fear, we
这
bear
个
the
身体就
burden
像行尸走
of the
肉一
relative
般，
happiness
总
of
是充
kings,
满了
which
恐
is
惧。
just like a
我们
dream.
我
Thus, we
们
have
承受
rejected the
着
real happiness of the
国
soul,
王们的
which
相
comes
对
by
快乐
rendering
的重
selfless
担，
service
它
to
就像
you,
是一个
being
梦
so
幻一
very
样。
wretched, we
因为
simply
我们
suffer
放弃
in
拒
this
绝了
life
灵魂的真正的
under
快
the
乐，
spell of your illusory energy.
而这种灵魂的快乐呢，
Other
是
expressions
通
of
过对
humility
您无
describe
私的奉献得到
their
的。
avarice for wealth and power.
他们非常的
And
有力
in the
啊，
course of pursuing wealth and power, they were not
在这个
caring
追求
properly
财富和
for
权
their
力的时
citizens.
候，
They were more concerned expediently for
啊，
wealth
他
and
们
power.
并不啊，这些国王们，他们并不是一
And
味的
I'm
去追求
thinking
他们
about
的
this. I was
物
thinking
质
about
的
Sri
追
Radhika's
求
question
和
from
这个
yesterday
权利，
about,
而是为了
you know,
更多的
they're
是
not
考虑到他所
they're
他的臣民们
acknowledging
的
we
保
weren't
护。
acharya-like kings. We were driven by
我们在
the relative happiness of kings,
我
which
们
is
在
just
受
like
到
a
这种
dream.
相对的快乐的
Then
驱使之下，
this is the thrust of their prayer. Please release us prisoners
请将我
from
们
the shackles
从
of karma manifest as
囚禁
the king of
请
Magadha,
将我们从 karma 的束
wielding
桎梏当中
alone the
释
prowess
放
of
出来。
10,000
我们
maddened
这些
elephants.
囚禁者，
He has
而
locked
这
us
个
up in his
karma 的
house,
禁锢呢，以
just as a
玛
lion
的国王而展示出来。
captures
玛的
sheep.
国王他拥有1万头大
So
象的
there's
力
like
量，他将我
20
们锁在他的
verses
屋
in
子
their
里，
message,
就
but I'm
像
just
是
summarizing.
狮子
O wielder of the
背住
disc,
了狼一样。
Jarasandha is so filled with pride that he dares to
加尔
torment
桑的
us,
他是
your
如此的傲
subjects.
慢，他百般的折磨
Unconquerable
我们。
one, please rectify the situation.
哦，
I mean, they
不可征服的
express
人啊，
also
希望
subtly some
挽
doubt.
回这种局面吧。
That it's subtle, it's polite, but
这
it's,
是
they
一
have
种很
doubt.
精微的。
How is this possible? He's such a bad guy.
他
He's
们
so
的内心还
powerful.
是这样想的：
And
他
he
这个
put us in
坏家伙
prison.
是这样的有
And we're
力
your
的，他把我
devotees.
们
And we're
囚
in
禁
prison.
在这个监狱里了。我们是奉献
How's
者，
this?
我们现在却成了囚
Like
犯，怎么会这样
Krishna's
呢？
not protecting us. Krishna doesn't have a good
为
plan.
什么他不保护我们吗
He should do the
？Krishna 有
plan like
Krishna 的计划，
we say he should do the plan. And that's one of the essences of this morning's class.
所以呢，这就是今天早课的
Misfortune
精髓
came
的
their
部
way.
分。
They're devotees
这
of
一
Krishna,
种
but there's
幸
certainly
运是
mixed
以这种方
devotees,
式
and
到
they're
来
pointing
的。
fingers at Krishna.
然后在困境当中，奉献者他们通常会去求助于
When the
Krishna，
messenger completed delivering his
将这个
message,
信
this
使
is a nice
将
painting.
这个国
He's on
王
one
国王
side,
们
and
的
who
信
should come but
传递给 Krishna
our
之后，
dear
然
Narada
后
Muni,
他们就进行
parachuting
关
in
切怎
at
么
the
样
right
做。
time,
就
saying the
在
right
这个时
thing
候
and doing
，Narada
all the
Muni
right
来
things
到了会议
during the
厅，
Narada Muni program.
然后 Narada Muni 就说了，带来了
When the
他的信
king's
息。
messenger had thus spoken, the
当
sage
国
of
王
the
们的
demigods,
信
Narada,
使
suddenly
这样说
appeared
完之后，但是
like
圣人 Narada
the
突然
brilliant
之间
sun
显现了，就像是
right in the
光
assembly,
芒万丈的太阳一样。
and coming before Krishna, what does Krishna do? He receives him and offers him proper respect and honors him in all the ways, and there's details and details of how Kshatriya honors a Brahmana. We're going to hear some more about that this evening with Krishna honoring Sudama. When Krishna observed, he taught by example social etiquette, which is a big part of the Sanatana Goswami pastime. So after all of that, desiring unrivaled sovereignty, King Yudhisthira intends to worship you with the greatest fire sacrifice, the Rajasuya. Please bless this endeavor. So what's Rajasuya? It's the Raja of all yagyas. And it's a particular yagya where a king there's a formal ceremony where the host of demigods are propitiated. There in these days they would actually come. They don't come now, but they would make themselves visible, and they would be offered various offerings to benedict this king to become the emperor. And there is a number of rules, but Yudhisthira is through Narada sending a message to Krishna, please come. Please come, please bless this event, let it be successful. So, towards the end of chapter 70, Krishna acts as if he's perplexed. Now, he's set up the whole thing anyways, but he acts as if he's perplexed to give Uddhava, his dearest devotee, an opportunity for some service. Now, in the commentary, it says, when Narada came to deliver this message from Yudhisthira, Narada knew, because he's Narada, he knew what Krishna's wish was. Krishna's wish was to kill Jarasandha. And for the Rajasuya to happen, all kings would have to be conquered and Jarasandha would not submit. So that many had to be killed. So Narada's really happy. He also wants to see Jarasandha dismissed, but he's a Brahmana. He's not going to hit him with his tambura or something. Or Veena. Or utter a curse or something. The Kshatriya business. He knows Krishna's desire. So Krishna, what does Krishna do? He turns to Uddhava. What should I do? You're my best advisor. You're very wise. You're this and that. Uddhava's response is so beautiful. He glorifies and glorifies and glorifies and glorifies and glorifies Krishna. Now, what is the relationship between Uddhava and Krishna? It's friendship and service is mixed, largely friendship, like Arjuna. And Uddhava, is Krishna's cousin, which means like Arjuna is Krishna's cousin. Uddhava's father has as his sister Krishna's mother. Excuse me, Arjuna's mother. No, Krishna's mother. Krishna's mother. So they're cousins. Uddhava and Krishna are cousins. Kunti and Devabhaga are brother and sister. They're cousins. But he's constant companion, even more than Arjuna, constant companion. From the time Krishna went to Mathura till the final departure of Krishna from this world, Uddhava was with him. Constant companion. I mean, sometimes he sent him on missions, but constant companion, intimate associate. So he even looked like Krishna. He even dressed like Krishna. When he came to Vrindavan, the gopis thought he was Krishna. Then they realized he wasn't Krishna. But he's so connected to Krishna. he knows Krishna's heart, so he says many nice things. And because you're giving me some service, I'm deeply indebted to you. And there's a sequence. Just quickly, it's a nice sequence. He said, you both need to be done. And of the two, first, if you go to Indraprastha to fulfill the request of your dear devotee, Yudhishthira, something's going to have to happen. To do the Rajasuya, Jarasandha will have to be killed, because you can't do it because it violates the rules of the Rajasuya. And I know that you want to have Jarasandha be killed. And the way to kill Jarasandha is Bhima, because he's so powerful. They're equal in strength. And otherwise, Krishna can just blink his eyes and he's dead. But he can't be defeated in battle. So the battle needs to be done outside the city. Now there's another purpose. There's two other purposes. Outside the city is so that innocent people aren't killed. The second purpose is enormous wealth goes into battles, the war, and that enormous wealth is needed for the Rajasuya Yajna. So Uddhava knows all this. He's like playing chess and he's 10 steps ahead, saying what Krishna wants him to say. He's not a ventriloquist, it's just he knows Krishna's heart. And he lays out the plan. So Bhima should fight him. It should be done outside the city. And the way it should be done is, we know that Jarasandha is a Duskriti. He does pious things to get credit, kriti, and he misuses them. So one of the things that he does that's a pious thing is he honors Brahmanas, because he gets pious merit, which he misuses. So you and Arjuna and Bhima should go dressed, attired as Brahmanas, and beg charity with the battle, and then Bhima should be the one to fight him and kill him. So the battle will be done outside the city, because it's Brahmanas. It's not a big war where innocent people are being killed. And when he's killed, then the purpose of the messenger, who's still standing there right next to Krishna, hearing the whole story, then the purpose of the kings will be served. When Jarasandha's killed, then the kings can be released, and it satisfies both. And in the assembly, everyone went Haribol. They voiced approval, except for the junior members of the Yadu dynasty. They didn't like it. They wanted to go to battle. So Krishna turned to the minister, to the messenger of the kings. And he says almost nothing. He says less than a full sentence. He said, out of all of this, Ma Vaishta. Tell them, do not fear. I will fulfill their desire. Do not fear. And it's in the plural. And they will be released. And so it's also in the plural. So he's giving a pledge. And Krishna keeps his word. And Krishna gives a pledge to us. He doesn't tell us, Ma Bhishta, he's going to kill Jarasandha, whoever's harassing us. But he says, Masuchaha. Same translation, but it's a different message. Different way of saying the same message. So we have Krishna's assurance. Now, the kings are being tested. They're devotees. The messenger goes back and informs the kings that Krishna said, Ma Vaishta.
并且将 Krishna 的信息传递给他们了。说到了
And then Krishna has a plan.
Balishta， 然后
And his
Krishna 有他
plan
的
doesn't
计划，
match what the kings
他
have
的
as a
计
plan.
划
Because
Krishna 的计划
Krishna is all
跟
powerful,
这些国王，
Krishna could
Krishna 他
just
是如
go,
此
you know,
的强有
smash. He
力，
didn't say, you know,
他无所
how
不
it was
能。
going to happen,
Krishna
but, you know, kill Jarasandha, release them from prison. But that's not what
但
happens.
是
Not right away. It
Krishna
happens,
他的
but
计
not
划
right
是
away.
首先杀死
Krishna
加
fulfills
桑
his
达，
promise.
然后这些国
Lord
王们
Krishna
就
went
会被
to
释放。
Indraprastha.
当
This is chapter
Krishna 后
41. It's
去到了
a long
Indraprastha，
description.
这是在第
It's a
71
mega
章讲到的，
journey.
有很长的描述，
You
说到
picture in
了
your
Krishna
mind
的旅程，
16,108 queens with their
当 Krishna
palanquins
带着
and their
他的
maidservants.
16,108位
They're
皇后，
they're
还有
going
他
for
的
months,
众
so
多
all
的
of their
仆人，
ornaments and their wardrobe and
他们穿
their 10 sons, each of them times
浑身
16,108,
珠光宝气，
and their
然
wives
后
and
他
know
们
and the
带着他的
military and the ministers and the
还有大臣
brahmanas
们，
and
还有婆罗门们，
it's a big shebang.
所以呢，这是一个
And the
庞大的
distance
队
from
伍。
Dwarka to Indraprastha isn't like down the street.
那
Some of
这
you
个
came from faraway
Dwarka
places,
到
but it's nothing like
Indraprastha，
what this is happening. Nothing like it.
路途遥远，
Elaborate description of, you know, elephants and bullock
关于
carts
他
and
的旅
this
程
and
有着
that
非
and
常
their weapons
详
and the
细的描述，
military and
描述了他
yada
们
yada
的
yada.
大臣、他们的武器
And
等等。
Krishna finally arrived at Indraprastha. On the
然
way,
后
they
呢 ，Krishna
stopped in
终于
different
到了
places. People were honoring Krishna. It
Indraprastha。
was another
在
opportunity
路
for
上的时
Krishna to
候，
give
还有所
his
到之处
association
各
to people
所
in
有的人
between
都
Dwarka
欢
and
迎，热烈的
Indraprastha.
欢迎 Krishna。
He would do like that.
后来他们
But
来到了 Indraprastha，
it was reciprocation with
他们受到了欢迎，
his dear devotee.
热烈的欢迎，
Yudhishthira.
受到了他的
And when
钟爱
he
的奉献者的热烈的
reached
欢迎。
Indraprastha,
当
he,
他们到达
Bhagavatam
Indraprastha 的
says,
时
he
候，
resided there for several
正
months.
典不列瓦坛说到了，他们在那里
Now, poor kings.
住了好几个月，
To get from
跟
Dwarka to
国王住了
Indraprastha,
好几个月。
how long could that
他
have
们
taken?
从 Dwarka 去到
It
Indraprastha，
was, you know, at least a month, maybe more.
至少
Doesn't say how long the journey was. And then he's staying, it
并没有
does say
说
he
几
stayed
条
in
花了多长时
Indraprastha for
间。
several months.
这里面说到了
So-
Krishna 在 Indraprastha 待了好几个月的时间，
It's a puzzle.
所以呢，这是
Why Krishna
令人有
delayed?
点迷惑。
Because
为
look,
什么 Krishna
if
延
you're
迟了？
going to be telling Krishna what he should do,
如果你
just go finish Jarasandha, release the king,
Krishna.
because you promised them. He
你
could
不
do
是
it.
承诺过你要
He didn't
去
even have to
要
go.
杀死加尔桑
Just
达，
blink his eye
释
and
放那些国王
Jarasandha's
了吗？
finished. Why didn't he do it?
他
Why
Krishna
this
他可以去做，
several
他
months
7个月
delay?
就可以结果了。加尔桑达为什么却延迟了好几个月的时间呢？
This is I'm emphasizing because it's an important lesson
我
for
在
us
这里提
about
出了这个重
examining
点，
our shelter taking.
实际上这就是考验了我们
Sometimes,
的托庇，
more than
对
sometimes, people second guess,
我
you
们
know,
的托
why
庇的
does
心态
Krishna。do this and do that in our
有的
lives
时候我们问 Krishna 为什么
or
这么
with
做，为什么
somebody
那么做？
else that's dear to us? Why? You know,
为什么
why
他
do bad
对
things happen to
我
good
们
people
所
and
爱的
all
人
those
做的
kinds
这
of
些呢？等等。
doubts?
所以这
Now,
些疑
did
惑，
the kings in the prison have doubts? Is he really going to
这些-
come? Is he going to keep his
这
word? You
些
know,
被
why is
囚
it
禁
taking so
在
long?
监狱里的那些国王们，他们有没有疑惑呢？
That's not what happened because they had mixed devotion. We heard what their prayer was.
因为这些国王们，他
They
们
wanted to
有
go
着
back to their
混
kingdom
杂
and
的奉
rule.
爱，
They were regretting
他们-
the fact that they hadn't
他们
taken
想
proper
要
care
去
of the
返回他们
citizens.
的
They were
王国
focused
进
on
行
wealth and
统治，
power. But, you know, who
他
isn't
们
in this world
专注
focused on wealth and
他们
some
专注
kind of
在这种
influence?
财富上，有的时候
It's
他们
called
有这种影
mixed
响，
devotion. And the kings had, they were
有的
devotees,
时候他们需要他们
mixed
渴望这种
devotees,
影响力，
doubting,
所
you
以
know, why
他
do
们
bad
他
people
们是
have
他们
power
的奉爱
like
服务是混
Jarasandha?
杂的，但是他们
Mixed devotees.
他们
So
的
Krishna was making an arrangement.
这些
You
国
know,
王们，他
the
们是混杂的奉献
the
者。
primary message of this whole
这个主要的信息
section
是
of
其
morning
中
class is
今天早上
someone
课
was
程传递的主
in
要
our
信息
audience
是
here was speaking about acceptance, and they having
Woman.
trouble in this principle of
在我们
living
的
by
早课当
accepting.
中呢，有奉献者提出
There are
来的
arrangements in
是，
our lives that are hard to
在
accept.
我们的生活当中会遇到一些困难。
Okay, you can choose to not accept it, but that doesn't change the arrangement in your
当然
life.
你，当然你可以去选择做出其他的选择，
Somebody
但
has
是并不能
some
够改
chronic
变
health
你
problem,
生活当中的这种
right?
啊
Premananda? Sometimes devotees have chronic health
这种天
problems.
然的安排。
No, you have to manage it properly, but you know
当然
just
了，我们
not
要
accepting
好好的去处理。
whatever. The list is very long.
我们要去接受，
Material existence is how to accept it,
我们怎么样去接受物
and
质的
then there's
存在呢？
acceptance, but acceptance with
当然。
faith that
那去
Krishna's
怀
going to
着信心去接受，
Masuchaha is going to keep his word.
他会 Masuchitaha Krishna 会信守
And
承诺。
specifically, the promise in Bhagavad Gita is to relieve us of all the reactions of our sinful activities.
Krishna 他承诺
We'll
到
hear
了，
it
他会把我们
When
从所有的
Krishna
罪恶
says
反
to
应
the
当中
kings,
超脱出
Krishna is
来。
going to say to the kings, all that happened in the past,
呃
all that is fructifying in the
Krishna
moment, and all that may be coming to you in the future, squeaky clean. It's just, it's the
但是
same
Krishna
message
后
as what
来
Krishna
承
says in
诺了这
Bhagavad
些国
Gita.
王们，
You need
在
something?
说到了，
Okay.
会把这些国王们从
So while he's
所有
there,
的不
Krishna
幸
has some other
现在和
purposes.
过去的
One of the
和
other
未来的不
purposes
幸当
was
中超脱出来。
making
其
an
中的一
arrangement
个要点
for
是，
his dear devotee Yudhisthira
他为他
to
的
have a
心爱的奉
celestial
献
assembly
者做
hall.
安排，他的 Yudhisthira
That celestial
Yudhisthira
assembly hall, while Krishna and Arjuna were in Indraprastha, sometimes they would
当
go
Krishna 和 Arjuna
out
在
and
印证
and
他
about,
他们住在了天神
and
般
they were
的
going on
Yudhisthira 的
Arjuna's
这个
chariot. And one of the
院子里
times that
当
they
中
were，out in Arjuna's
在这
chariot, they're
个他们
sitting
待在
by
后来
on a
这个
bench in a
Krishna
forested area,
和
and
Jarsonda
this strange
和
person
Arjuna
came
驾驶的战车
asking for shelter.
去到了
It turns out it
这个
was
森林，
Agni in
看到了森
disguise,
林。
begging charity. So whatever you want.
啊，
Then
那
he
个时候
revealed his
阿格尼
identity.
他
I'm Agni.
为乔装
And
打
begging
扮
charity.
向他们来祈求
And
布施。
there's been so many yagyas, too much ghee. I've got indigestion.
亚格尼呢，他说到了，因为有那么多的祭祀施行，我吃了那么多的
But there's a
祭，
solution.
所以
In
引起
this
了消
Khandava
化不
forest,
良。
there's herbs.
但
And
是
if I
有一个
if
解决
I
办法，在康达瓦森
devour
林
the
里
herbs,
有
my
这样的
indigestion
草
will be
药，
relieved. But every
这
time
个
I go
草药
to
能够治愈我的消化不良。
burn the forest and devour the herbs, Indra
所
sends
以呢，
down
他
torrents
想
of rain and all the
去
fire
燃
goes
烧
out.
这个森林，
It
将其
happens
中
again
的
and
这
again
个
because he's got a
草药
buddy
吃掉。
that's hanging out in the forest and he doesn't want his buddy to be harmed, so he's protecting his buddy. Can you help me?
然后那个
So of course we'll
当
help
时
you.
就有一个
Then Arjuna says, you know the story from
他
Mahabharata.
请求他们的
He
帮助。
says, to do what you're asking, I'm going to need a celestial chariot and this and some special bow and arrows and
他说
things.：“
为了感
And,
谢你对我的保
you know,
护，我要赐予
Agni
你
says,
给予
coming
你
right
这
up.
个天神般的一
Here
些
they
东
are.
西。
I'll go to this deva and this person, and here's everything you need. So he
所以他
gets
承诺了
ready,
给 Yudhisthira 建
and
造
Agni
一个
starts
天神
burning
般的会
the
友厅。
forest. And then we see on the
后
upper
来，然
left
后
corner,
他们
there's
就
Indra
开
on his
始
Airavata
燃烧
elephant
这个
sending
森
down
林。
torrents of rain, and there's
那个时候呢，
Arjuna
indra
sending
从
torrents
天
of
而降，
weapons
驾
to
驶
keep
坐
him
在他的
from
大象
sending
的
torrents
身
of
上，
rain.
从
And as
降
a
下了
result,
滂沱大雨。结果
Agni's satisfied, and
Agni
the person that Indra was protecting was Mayadanava. Mayadanava comes.
因为这个
There's
indra 也
further
要保护
detail,
Mayadanava，
but he's
所以
then ready to be killed by Krishna, and he falls at the
然后
feet
那
of
个时候
Arjuna.
他那
Protect
个时
me.
候就要被 Krishna 杀死，因为
So Arjuna said, certainly I'll
Mayadanava
protect you.
不是刚才我
So
说错了
Mayadanava is saved. Mayadanava wants to reciprocate with
Mayadanava
Arjuna. Arjuna says,
然后
I'm a Kshatriya. I
接受
don't
了
take
Arjuna 的
payment
庇
for
护。
my service and protection.
然后 Mayadanava 他
So
向去
thanks, but no
Arjuna
thanks.
求地，然后
He doesn't say it
Arjuna
that way,
保护
but
了他，
that's what he
托
says.
庇护了他。
So Krishna says, I'll take your offer.
，Krishna 说
You build for
我会接
Yudhishthir
受
a
你的供
celestial
奉。
palace.
然后 Krishna 对
Can you do it?
Mayadharma
Oh
说，
yes, I
你
can
去
do
给
it. I have to get the
Yudhishthira 建造
ingredients.
一座
I
天
know
神
where to
般
get the
的会议
ingredients,
厅。
this and that.
然后
Krishna
呢
said, okay, I'm going to go
，Mayadharma
back to
就去
Dwarka
搜
for a
集各
little
种
break.
材料。
And when your celestial palace is done, I'll come.
当
And when
你
the
给
celestial
他建
palace is
造了这
ready,
样的天神般的宫
that's
殿之后，我会去
after
Indraprastha。
Jarasandha is killed.
在加尔桑达被杀死之后，
So now it's time. They're
现在
back in
他
Indraprastha,
们
and the plan,
返回
you
到
know,
Indraprastha 的时候了。这个计划
Yudhishthir
是
says, let's
Yudhishthira 说的，
perform the Rajasuya. So the four brothers are sent in all directions to do, because the procedure, generally
因为
speaking,
这个程
is
序
kings are
通常来
approached.
说，
Yudhishthir is going to become the emperor. You can say yes and give tax or
邀请这
tribute,
个天下的
or
国
you can
王
say
参
no
加
and
这
have
个祭
battle.
祀。在
Which
这
one do
场
you
祭祀
want?
当中，Yudhishthira 会加冕为
And
王
they。said yes, here's the tribute, except for one person.
然后，所以这些国
Jarasandha.
王们都
And
向
Bhima
他
was
们
sent in his
向
direction.
Yudhishthira 献礼。
Bhima
除
came
了
back
其
with the
中一位
port.
国王，那就是
I didn't do battle
Jarasandha。
with him, but he won't surrender. So then comes, okay, what do we do? How do we deal with Jarasandha? So everything's
那
after
怎么样
several
去
months
对付
of the
Jarasandha
poor
了？
kings being in
在
his
几个月
prison.
之后，后
I'm
来
looking at the clock. I'm telling too much of the story, but it's so nice.
关于这个故事，我讲的太多了，我看了看钟，因为这个
Better
故事
than Harry
太
Potter, for
精彩
sure.
了。那我就长话
Although
短
I
说
haven't
吧。
read Harry Potter, just can't match this. So they decide what to do. They decide to go disguised, which is Uddhava's plan.
然后他们
The
就决
three of
定
them
了
go
去
in
伪装
disguise. They come
从
before
婆罗
Jarasandha.
门，
He said,
他
oh,
们伪装
brahmanas
从婆
have
罗
come.
门去到
Some
加尔桑达，
service I
然
can
后
do.
加尔桑达一看
Just
见
tell
哦，
it.
婆罗门来了，我的
It's
服务
yours.
来了，请告诉我怎么服务你们。
So Krishna reveals who they are.
然后
This is
Krishna 接受
my
揭示了
brother
他们是
Arjuna.
谁。
This is my brother
这是
Bhima.
我的
I'm
弟
Krishna.
弟
Haribo.
Arjuna，这是我的弟弟
And we
Bhima，这
just
是
have
我
one
的。
request, and it's battle. You
然
can
后
pick
呢，
which
他们
one of
就
us you
请
want to do
求
battle
向你
with.
请求战争，交战。
Now, Kshatriyas don't go in disguise
Kshatriya
like this and ask in charity, and it's like,
而且通常情
so
况下
he's
不会把自己
smug.
伪装成这个样子。因
You
为
so-called Kshatriyas begging in
然
charity,
后这个
just
加尔
ask me
桑达
for a
说，
battle
你
and
们
he's
是所
yours.
谓的Kshatriya。
And he rules out Arjuna because he's young. He rules out Krishna because he's too
然后他
weak.
说到了这个 Arjuna 年龄太小，说 Krishna 太弱了。
You ran
不是
from the
他的
battlefield the 18th time I
你看
came.
你
He
这个
didn't
懦
mention the
夫，
first
你从
17.
这个战场上逃走了，
So you're a
根
coward.
本就
But this one,
不
I'll
屑
fight.
于
And
跟
here's
你
a
一
big
战。
club. So he gives him a big
他说
club.
这个
They start fighting
这
with
个人
clubs.
是个合适的贤选，
27
合适的他指出
days of fighting with
然后
clubs.
他
And
和
when the
Bhima
clubs all broke,
交
because they had
战了
more clubs and more
27
clubs,
天的时
then
间
it，was fists, and with a
他们就
fist
是
is
用
hard
这
as
个大
steel
头
and
棒互相
or
打，
iron, I guess, and smashing. On the
他们就
28th
这样
morning,
互相的打，
Bhima
互
says
相的，
to Krishna,
然后到最后一天
I
，Bhima 对
can't defeat
Krishna
him.
说到了，我不
He's
能
so
打败他，
powerful.
他
And you
这
know
么
what
有力
Krishna
量。
does? In the
然后
drawing
Krishna 是
here,
怎么做
Krishna
的呢？
takes, he doesn't say
然后呢
anything,
，Krishna
just takes a little
Krishna
twig,
一言不发，
holds
他
it,
就摘下了
and
一个小树
bifurcates it.
枝，
Because Krishna knew how
然
to
后把
kill
它掰成了
Jarasandha.
两半
He
儿，
was
然后
Jara
向
Sanda.
Bhima 暗示着
When he
用
was
这种方式
born
去杀死
of two
Jara
queens,
Sanda。
he was born in two
当
halves.
加尔桑达
The
他
king
出
was
生的时候，
disgusted and threw the
他
two
出
halves
生的
to the
是两
side.
个皇后
A
生
witch
的两个半，
named
就是
Jara
两个半个身子。
found the two
后来
halves.
呢，
Curiously,
他们
she
就把这个
put
两
them
个半
together
身子
and
扔了，被
the
一个
child
女
became
巫
one.
捡到了。
So
这
she
个女
brought the
巫叫
child
Jara，然后她
to
Jara 就
the
把这
king.
两个半个身
Said,
子就
here's your
合拢
child,
起
just one
来。
request.
后来呢，
Name him
就
after me.
是一个整个的一个身体。
Jara
后来
Sanda.
他就是 Jara Sanda，
So
被
Krishna
命名
knew
为
that was how to
Jarasandha。
defeat him.
所以
So he
Krishna 他
showed,
知
he
道
didn't say, he
是
just
打败
gestured.
Jarasandha 的方
Bhima,
法。虽然
intimately
Krishna
associated with
他一
Krishna,
言不
also
发，
knew
他
what that
只
meant.
是
He
用
threw
他
him
的
down
动
to the
作示
ground,
意，
did
向
something you're
Bhima
not
示意。
supposed to
然
do,
后 Bhima 他
grabbed him below the
了
waist,
然于心，他立刻将
took one leg,
Jarasandha
whether
扳
it
倒
was
在
foot,
地，
the other leg,
他一脚
ripped
踩
it
在他
apart,
的腿
and that
上，
was the end of
然后
Jarasandha.
用手拽住了他的另一条
And
腿，
in the
将他撕
background,
成
it
了
doesn't
两
show
半。
exactly, but
在
it's
这
outside
个
the
战
city.
场 交战之
And
后，
his
这场战争，这个
citizens
交
saw
战
the
呢就
whole
发
thing
生
happen.
在城外。
One of the
然后
first
这
things,
个
not
公民
one
们、
of
臣
the
民们
first
都
thing
看
that
到了这
Krishna
一幕。
did was he arranged for the eldest son of Jarasandha to become the next king. He didn't want the kingdom.
后来呢 ，Krishna 他
He
就
wanted
替
the
了这个
wealth of the
商的
kingdom to
长
go for the
子
Rajasuya
加冕
Yajna.
为下一任国王，然后
So
实
innocent
行。
citizens were not harmed. The son became
这
the
样呢，
next
这个
king,
无辜的臣民就不
It's
会
like
受到伤
Vibhishan
害，
becoming the king, like that.
就像是
And
Vibhishan
um,
后来成为国王。
then Krishna went to release the kings.
然后 Krishna 就前去释放
So when he went
那
to
些被
release the
囚禁的国
kings,
王们。
here's a nice
当
painting.
他前去释放
Just
国
a
王们
comment
时的
about
时
the
候，
painting. This
我们可以
painting
看
shows
看
a
一看
normal
这
kind of a
个
prison,
图片上
or
的
something like a
评
normal
述，
kind of a prison. But the description
他们看上去几乎
by
就
our
像是囚犯一
acharyas
样。
and in
我们的 Acharya 是这样说到的。
somewhere, Gopal Champu, I think, it describes the
我看
prison
仓库当中
was
说
not
了，
exactly a prison.
说到了
It was a
说到了
cave
这些
inside a mountain
囚
by
犯，
his
他们并
capital
不是真
city.
正的囚犯，
So they were
他们
tossed
被
into
囚
a
禁在
cave
了首
big
府
enough
当
for
中。这个
20,000
首府
kings
呢，
and
建立了一个
practically
城堡，就
starved,
像是山洞那样。
treated very
然后
badly.
呃，
From
这些
within
国王们
Jarasandha's
受到了
capital,
虐待。
the
他
kings
们在
emerged
家
from
乡
the
被囚禁在家
giddy
乡的首府。
Droni fortress, a mountain cave
这样
especially
的首
constructed
府，
as a fort,
这些国王们从
appearing, the men appeared dirty
城堡当
and
中
shabbily
走
dressed.
出来，
They were
他们
emaciated by
看上
hunger.
去
These are
脏兮
kings.
兮的，而且衣
Their
衫褴
faces
褛。
were
他
dried up,
们因为
and they were
挨
greatly
饿
weakened
而消
by
瘦
their
不
long
已，并
imprisonment.
且他们的脸非常的憔悴。
There's a long
他们
description of how
因
Krishna
为长
appeared.
时间的囚禁
Forearm form,
囚禁而变
carrying
得
the
很
symbols
虚
of
弱。
Vishnu. Mightiness, majesty. This is for the king's benefit.
这是为
Brilliant
了
like
这
the
些
sun.
国
They've
王
been in this
的
dark cave prison thing,
福
and now they're
祉。
seeing the detail of how Krishna was adorned, his beauty, his
然后
features, his
Krishna
face, his
后来
smile, his
接下来
eyes,
Krishna 是如
his
此的，
ornaments.
又恢复了
Very,
他
very,
们昔日的
deity worship
英
kind of
俊的。
picture.
后
And they're
来
awestruck.
Krishna 也请他的这些仆人
They're
们
not only
去
awestruck,
为这些国王们洗
but
漱，然后他们又
their
恢复了往日的
their
光
material
彩的
ambitions
形象。
over the period of several months have now been
在
gone
几个
because
月，
when they heard
那
from
个时候
the
几个月过去了，
messenger that Krishna will
因为
come,
当他们
from
从
that point on,
信
they
息当
became
中呢
very
了解到，
fixed in
他们
meditation upon
Krishna
Krishna
很
coming
快
to
会到
rescue
来。
them.
那个时候他们知道
So
这个
that
信息之
meditation
后，他们
upon
立刻就变得
Krishna
很专注，
had
专注
purified
的冥想 Krishna，
them.
因为他们专注的冥想
So
Krishna，
say
所
it
以
again
内心受到了
so
净
that
化。
it's really, really clear.
所以这
The
里
key
很
point
清楚，
is, and there's a
这个
secondary
要
point
点
behind the
是
key point.
在这个要点背后
Krishna
还
has
有
the
次
best
要的要
plan.
点。Krishna 有最好的计划，
We may think we have the best
我们
plan.
可能会想，我们的
Why
计
is it
划
not
是最好的，
happening this way instead
为
of
什么
why is it happening that
没
way
这么发生？为什么会那么发生
in
呢？
circumstances in our life?
在我们的
And it's a
生活的
test.
不同的情况下，
It's a test for us to see where does our
我们会面临考
thought
验。
go, specifically where does our shelter taking in Krishna go? Does it go out the window because it's not happening the way? Just like here we are,
我们的
we
这
had a
个注意
plan
会去到哪
for
里？是不是会完全的专注在 Krishna 的
organizers of
这
this
一庇
event
护
had a
所上
plan
呢？
and Krishna had another plan. I don't know the purpose
我们
behind
有
the
我们的
plan,
计
but
划
it's,
，Krishna 有 Krishna 的计
it's
划。
here we are.
所以因为 Krishna 的计划，所以我们来到了这里进行这样的活动。
And there's a purpose. Now, it wasn't clear to the
而且
kings,
背后
but
是
it
有
will
目的的。
become clear to us as we go forward.
当我们继续
Our
往下
material
了
desires are
解
now
后面内
vanquished. It
容的时
wasn't
候，
just
我
seeing
们会
Krishna, it
了解
was
到
the deep meditation
我
upon
们的
Krishna
这
in
种物质的
anticipation
欲
of
望
meeting
会
Krishna.
被击毁。
In the most difficult of circumstances, meditating on the promise that Krishna gave, just like we have promises in Bhagavad Gita.
在这个艰难困苦的时候，我
My
们要去
devotees
冥
never
想
vanquished.
Krishna 在 Krishna 的承诺，就像 Krishna 在薄伽梵
Never
杯里所
vanquished
承诺
doesn't
的
mean
那
we're
样。
going to be eternal in our bodies. It means something
那
else.
么
You know,
，Krishna 在薄
spiritually
伽梵歌
speaking,
说
our
到了
spiritual
中呢，你们要
well-being is
宣布我的
protected
奉献
fully
者
by
永不
Krishna.
毁灭，并
Our
不是我
material
们的身
desires
体
are now
永不毁
vanquished.
灭。
These
是指
aren't,
的是我们的
they're
物质的欲
precise
望
words I'm
会
summarizing.
会
Nor do we
毁
want
灭掉。
liberation. Then comes
我
the
们现在
punchline.
也不渴求
Please teach
解
us
脱，
the exact method
请向我们教授我
which is
们
attainable
这
by
个非
us,
常清晰
which we
明
can
了的
cultivate
方
by
式。
practice,
这个方
to
式，
constantly
我
remember
们所能
you
够到
in
达的一
whatever
种
future
方式。这个
existence you
方
may
式，
place
我
us.
们能够通过
Now,
练习
they could
和
say
培养出
all
来
kinds of
恒
things.
长的冥
Well,
想
please
力，
grant
在
us
无
constant
论在
remembrance.
任何时候，未来我们遇到什么
He's
样的情
sending
况，都
beautiful,
恒长的冥想力。
effulgent, supremely pure.
他们
That's it.
看到了 Krishna
They could
如此
say,
光
please
灿
grant
美
us
丽、
constant
极度美丽
remembrance.
的形象，
Like this. That's not what they say.
这是他
They
们说的。
say,
要
please
恒长的
give us the
冥想
method
着
by which
Krishna。
we can
这是国
constantly
王们对
remember you.
Krishna 说，请将这
No
种清晰
sadhana
明了的方式教授
instructions.
给我们，怎么样到达
Arjuna
你
asks the same,
这
right?
就是我们通过这个练习
After
能够
the
培养出
universal
来，这就
form,
是
etc.,
sadhana。
etc.
在Arjuna 见了 Krishna 的宇宙形体之后，
Please give me the Chatra
请
Sloki
给
verses.
我，
Please give me the instructions by which I can always remember you. And he gives
请
his
给
vibhutis.
请给我
So here's Krishna's
教授
response. We're
我
almost
怎么
done
样
with
获
this
得这样的
chapter.
知识。然后
From
接
now
下来
on,
Krishna 讲到了 Vibhuti， 他
this
的。
point in time, my dear kings, you will have
然后
firm
Krishna 说到了，我
devotion.
亲爱的国王
There's
们，
this
你
Drita
们对我
Bhakti,
有坚定不移的
which was being
奉爱
examined.
Drita Bhakti，
Remember from the
你们的这
earlier
个坚
slides,
定不移的奉爱
Drita
受到了
Bhakti is
考
being
验。
used in relation to Sanatana
这里
Goswami,
Drita
and we'll hear
Bhakti
others were
也
also
在 Sanatana
tested for
Goswami 和
their
主持
Drita
开面
Bhakti.
Mahaprabhu 的关系当中也提到了
He's giving
Drita
it to
Bhakti。
them. That's the
Krishna
benediction.
将这 Drita Bhakti 给予了他们。
And who in Krishna is the supreme self and Lord of all that be. I assure you,
Krishna 他是至尊的自我，
Vadham, that this will
所
come
有
to
一切
pass
存
just
在
as
之
you
主。
desire.
我向你
So
们保证，
asking for
你们
several
会
things. Here is Vishwanath Chakravarti
Tongo
Thakur's
获
commentary.
得就像你们
I will
所
instruct,
愿望的那样。
and you will
这是
understand,
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur
practice,
所
and
说
then
的。
attain
我
firm
会教
remembrance
导
of
你
me.
们，你们会明白
So there's 4
这
parts.
个练
There's
习，
step
并
1,
且或
I
坚定
will
不移的
instruct.
记着我。
Step 2, you will
第一个
understand.
就是我会
Hopefully, we will
训示你们，
understand.
会教授你们。第二步就
And
是你
then,
们会
based
明
upon that
白。
understanding, you will
然后
practice,
基于这样的理解，
and then
你
you will
们会
attain
身
what
体
you
力
want.
行实践，
There's the
接着
sadhana
你
and
们
there's
就
the
会
sadhya.
到达我。所以呢，就
And when
有
that
sadhana 和
sadhya, that
sadhya。
firm
sadhya
remembrance
当
of
这个
Krishna is
sadhya 练
achieved,
习践行，
prema
是
bhakti
坚
will
定不移地
gradually
想着
appear
Krishna，
from such
那 prema bhakti 就会
uninterrupted
逐渐
remembrance.
的
This is
从
commentary.
这样的
That's step
毫
5.
不间断的
So this
意
is
念当
something
中
that's good for
显现
us
出来。
to understand.
所以呢，这对我们了
Now,
解这一点是非常好的，
his
非常重要的。
instructions that follow are what they should do from that point onward. But he's giving this,
然后他
he's
就从
kept
这
his,
个
he
点告
made
诉
a
他们
promise,
怎么样
do
去
not fear.
执行
He's
他的
keeping
训
his
示。
word, this constant remembrance which they
Krishna 他
want, which is
信守了
not
他的
just
诺
get
言。
us out of this horrible situation. We can ask Krishna for that, but
我们可以向
depending on,
Krishna 询
it may
问，
not happen right away, a horrible situation may not happen right
在
away.
这个可
Then
怕
what?
的
Where does
我
our
们在
attention
可
go?
怕的
Generally, attention
困
goes
境
to
当
problem
中，
solving,
通常在困境当中，我
looking for a
们
material
的
solution.
注意力就会
When
去
it's not,
向是怎么
it
解
looks
决
like a
困
material
境。
problem, but it's a spiritual problem.
看上去呢，像
Just
是
this
一个
morning,
物
I
质
was
的
hearing
问题。
Prabhupada. He was in New York,
就像今天
and
早
he
上，
was
我
was
聆听
speaking
了
at the
他的
temple. He
课
said that
堂，
when I arrived
并
yesterday,
说到了
that
一
the
个神
reporter
庙
was
里面
asking
说
me,
到了，
what's your
有
solution
一个
for
记者
such
问
and such
我，
crisis? And I said, it's already there, Krishna consciousness. But you don't want it.
那对
You
于
want
这样的
something
这样的
else.
事
You
情的
want
解
the
决办法是
adjustment
什么呢？
program.
那就是 Krishna 知觉，
But the
这就
root
是
problem is
Krishna 知
lack
觉
of
就在
Krishna
那里。但
consciousness.
是呢， 但是这个
So
问题的根
what the
源就
the
是
kings want
以
is
缺
not
乏
just
Krishna 知觉，
please bless
所
me
以
with
呢，这个
Krishna
国王们
consciousness, please bless me with
他们
constant remembrance. They're asking for the
国
sadhana,
王们在
the
这里寻
practice that's
求
doable
Krishna 怎么
by
样恒
us
常的
so
永
that
恒
we
的记着
can
他。
become qualified for this
这样
constant remembrance.
我们如何记着你？
And
通过
there's
什么
these
样的
steps.
习练记
I'm
着
going to
你？
mention it
这样
again
我们就变得
in the
有资
midday
格
class, so be
等
ready for it. 1. Krishna will instruct.
这是第一
Two,
步
we will
，Krishna 给予
understand.
训示，给予教导。
Right?
第二个是我们会明白，是吧？
4. We will practice.
第四个我们会，
And
第
then
三我们
4.
是我们会
Remembrance.
身体力行。第四个就
Constant,
是
firm remembrance.
很恒常的忆念 Krishna，
We're not there yet.
恒常
We're
的记
still
着
in。the practice stage. We may be still on the
我们
trying to
现在
understand
仍
stage.
然
We
在
maybe
这个
even
练习
like
的
have
过程
to
当中。
hear the instructions umpteen times so that we can understand them. That's okay. There's steps. And then comes this
这里有
uninterrupted
这样的一个步
remembrance.
骤，然后最后
That's
是
what
会
bhakti
恒
is. It's
常
the,
的
the
记着 Krishna。
uninterrupted remembrance is when there's
这里说
unalloyed
到的
devotion
是
or
不间
prema
断的记
bhakti.
着 Krishna， 那也就是那如此
He then
prema bhakti
concludes,
就
at the
会
present
逐
time,
渐的显
you
现
will
出来，
attain
在
steadiness
一
in
定的时候，
practice,
你见
sadhana,
恒常的
and
坚
quickly
持坚持
attain
不懈的
the
去做
goal,
sadhana，
sadhya. This is still
那很
Vishwanath's
快的就
commentary.
会到
From
达目
today
标
on,
sadhya。
you will experience ever
从
fresh
今天你
spiritual
会
realizations.
体验到永恒长
So if
鲜
you
的
want some
灵性的觉
realizations, now
悟。
you know what to do, right?
现在
If you
如果你要获
are
你
not
想获得
feeling
觉悟的话，
realizations
你
are
们现在
coming,
知
now
道
you
该
know
怎么
why,
做了
right?
吧？
Now what about us?
那我们怎么？
Let's
那我
examine
怎样的呢？
our shelter taking and how well are we doing with these 5 steps. Now,
我们
he
做的
goes
这
on,
5个步骤
Krishna
我们
goes
做
on,
的
if
怎么
you
样呢？
I invite you can read, he gives very
我们
specific
的这
instructions.
个考验或者
Although they're
是检
kshatriyas,
验，
the instructions apply
就
to
是
all
这
of
5个
us.
步骤是非
And this
常
how to, first is the instruction, then comes the understanding,
首先是教
then
教
comes the
导，然后接
practice,
着是
then
要
comes
理
the
解这
constant
个教导，
remembrance.
接着就是要身体力行实践，然后才会恒常不断的记着。
So what's our service?
那我们的服务是什么呢？
We're different, we have different psychophysical natures, etc., etc.
我们有不
But
同的心理状态。
read that section. I invite you because I'm not going to discuss it. We're running out of time already. I wanted to cover a whole other pastime, and I don't know how I'm going to do it.
我在这
Should
里
I
就不
just
说
skip
整
the other
个消失忘
pastime
了。
and take questions, or should I go to the other
我是继
pastime?
续讲消时光呢，还是说我
Huh?
在这里
Questions.
进入到提问的环节？
Questions. I'm itching to tell the other pastime. Maybe I'll
我
do,
非常
I don't
渴
know,
望
maybe I'll do it
告诉大
during,
家这段消
you know,
时光
Vyasa。Puja time, the midday discussion.
也许我们
Maybe
的
that's
提
what I'll
问
do.
可以放在
Okay,
中间的环节当
I had
中，
another plan, but
在谈话的这个过程当中去进行提问。
looks like everybody's fitting in here nicely. Let's see what happens after breakfast.
我们
But
看看在
it's,
这个早餐之后，
it's not overly cozy. It's
现在
comfortable.
不是冷的，
I hope nobody
冷的
has
受不
COVID
了的
because
时候。
otherwise we're going to have a problem. Nityananda Pran decided not to come because he has a co-worker that
那天南的 Pram
tested positive,
他
so he didn't want
约
to
进不来，
put us
因
at
为
risk,
他
so he
这
didn't
个
come.
做了核酸检测，他就是中招了，所以他就决定不来
Any
了。
comments, questions? It's 20 minutes before the hour. I see Subal's hand
大
waving
家
in the
有什
air.
么评述或者是问题的吗？
Who's
现
got
在
the
还有
microphone?
20分钟。
Okay, go ahead.
Say-
Whoever's got it.
Rumraj,
好，
Rumraj, on this point of Ma Shucha or Ma
关于
Baishta,
马舒恰哈，
it seems that
Baishta,
fear is a
这
very
一点
primordial emotion. All
在这里面
species
好像是
experience
有这种
fear as displayed in the instinctual fight or flight response. And what to speak of mortal species, even the residents of Goloka experience fear, although for Krishna's sake. So,
即便是过得
is
不好
our
的人
natural
们，也会
state
感觉
one
到
of
有什么恐
fearlessness?
惧。
And I'm just
关于这个
confusing
无所畏
that
惧
which has become habitual, which is
You're
being
confusing
fearful.
what?
And I'm confusing that which has become habitual,
Okay.
being fearful, with that which is natural, being fearless. Or is it that fear stays with us, even in the perfectional state?
Oh, you know the
that-
answer to this question.
那即便是一个人
So,
到达完美的境界，这个是不是还有这种害怕
When
或
it says
恐惧？
fearlessness,
当你说
it's
到
like
了
saying
无惧、
Krishna has no
无
form.
畏无惧的时候，
Nirakar. He has no material form.
Krishna 他没有
Fearlessness means no
Krishna 没有
material
物
fear.
质的形体。那么这个
In the
无所
spiritual world,
畏
there's all emotion,
无所畏惧，它指的
transcendental
是
emotion.
没有物质的
And
畏
you
惧。
said it nicely. Their fear is
那么
for
在
the
灵性
safety
世
of
界里
Krishna.
有这种超然的害怕。
So do I need to elaborate, or it's sufficient?
so do not fear.
There's the
No.
material
不害
side.
怕，这是指的物质的方面，不害怕。
And
不
we
害怕
can never
物
really
质
get rid of fear,
Well, excuse me.
but it's
There's transcendental
不好
everything.
意思，
We don't want to make
一
things
切都
zero.
有超然的方面，就是你知道
We
我说
want
的是什么
everything to
意
be
思？
in relation to Krishna.
我们希望一切都和 Krishna 紧密相
That's the
连。
answer. Within it's just fearlessness. It's
这
not
个没
it's
有
not
害
a
怕，
primordial fearlessness. It's no material fear. And
甚至
you
它
know,
是没有物
within
质
the
的害
spiritual
怕。
world, there's everything.
在灵性
There's
世界里
everything
拥
that's
有一切，
transcendental, and that
以
transcendental
灵性世界的
from
一
the
切都是
lens
超
of
然的。
the material vision.
从
It's not
在
nice.
这个物质的视域，
I want
在这
fearlessness.
种超然
Let it be
的，
zero.
如果通过物质的视域去看的
Let
话，
me
看
become a
上去不
stone.
是那么美，好像不是那么美妙。
So the difficulty, excuse me for putting it so bluntly, but the difficulty is looking at something that's spiritual through material lens.
很抱
And that's
歉，
the
我这么
mistake.
大胆的这么说，
Fearlessness
很
doesn't
就是
mean
一针见血的这么说，
fear is
无所
primordial
畏惧，
because they have fear that for Krishna's safety. They have emotion in relation to Krishna.
那么
The-
他
the-
们
the-
害怕
the
是因为他们为
perverted
Krishna
reflection of
而
that
害
is
怕，在
fear
超然的层面上，他们将一切
of
都
the
跟
material
Krishna
kind.
联系起来，
And there's no
但是
escape
他们对
as long as there's a
Okay.
material conception. You know the verse. Bayam
你
dvitiyam
知道这个世界，只要有
abhiniveshi
这种物质的
takshat.
概
Fear
念，
arises when there's
就会有害
absorption
怕。
in duality.
当一个人专注于
Material
这
fear.
种二元性的时候，就会产生恐惧，
The
物质的
transcendental
恐惧。
motion is always there in different varieties, and it keeps
超
flowing
然的
like the
情
waves
感
of a
总
river.
是在那里，它
And
就
from
像
one
河，
moment, you know,
就是
fear, but even
行
that
云
fear
流
is
水
in
般，
ecstasy
这
and so forth and
这
so
种
on.
超然的情感像行云流
The
水般
motion of
的流
feelings
动
of
着。
separation, it's in ecstasy. All the spiritual emotions, it's in ecstasy.
所有的
Sorrow
灵性的
is
情
in
感全
ecstasy.
都是狂喜的状态，
Transcendental
即
sorrow.
便是超然的悲伤，也是处在
You,
狂喜
you've
的
heard
状
me
态。
speak on this. In Ramayana, how many
在
times does the word
Ramayana
sorrow appear after Ram is
在
sent in
Ramayana
exile?
呢，
It's
有多
devastating.
少就是在
Dasarath
拉玛
dies.
被放逐流
And
放的时
others
候，有
feel sorrow
这
and
个悲伤
sorrow
这
and
个词
sorrow.
出
And
现了多少次？
it's like,
一次又一
I
次
have
的
to
出
stop
现，
reading this
一次
book
又一次的出现。
because we're looking at it as if it's material, but it's not.
看上去
And
似乎是物质的，但
Rupa
是不是
Goswami
物质的。
explains it very nicely.
Rupa
It's a
Goswami
type of
他
ecstasy.
说的，他说
So
到
the
了，这
fear is
是
a type
一
of
种狂
ecstasy. It's
喜，
not, that's fearless
他们感受到
of the
了这
material
种
kind.
狂喜，
So
这
next,
不是物质的那种，
is-
不是物质的那种害
Subal
怕。
had his hand up before you did.
苏巴尔他举手了，
Srinivas Swami, you mentioned as we are,
您提到
or
了
Krishna plays the
我们
test help us
他给予考验，
assess
帮助
where
我
our
们
shelter is.
来
And
That's
加
not
强
exactly what I said.
告诉我们我们的庇护所是什么，是在
He's
哪里？
helping us to take all along
他
exclusive
他
shelter
帮
in
助我
Him.
们，
And each of
他
us
帮助我
have a
们，
capacity to make
就
a
是
little bit
只
more, a
是
little bit
臣服
more.
归依他，
And
脱
it's
离
very
他。
very special kindness as Krishna takes everything away. That's our false shelters.
那
When he
Krishna
shows
的
special favor,
非常的特殊的仁慈，就
like
是
he
他
did
把
with
这
the
一切
kings.
都拿走， 就像是这些国王们一样。
okay, yeah,
赐予他
that's
他将一
little
切
different
拿
than
走，
what you
赐予
said.
他无缘的特殊的仁慈。
although, we're going to this process
还有，
of being tested.
当
Called
我们
life.
去经历
And
这
we
种
have
考
to
验的
be
时候，
introspective and being able to
我们
see
应该去
and
类想。
understand the
我
thing.
们
There is a tendency of
但是
blaming
呢，仍
also
然
Of
还有这样的
course.
一
is
种倾
made.
向，
That's in the lower
Yeah.
range of emotion.
Yeah, even
这是
even
一
with the
种比
mixed
较
the
低层
kings, you
面的
mentioned
一
that they
种
were,
情感。
pointing a
因为
little
这
bit
些
of
国
Yeah,
王
they were
们
pointing
说
fingers
到
at
了
Krishna.
how to help
是的，
oneself
那
because
怎么样
it
去
can
帮助
really
自
take
己？
off this blaming propensity or tendency
因
that
为
many of
那
us
怎么样
have.
去
How to
去除
help
这样
oneself.
的一种
Yeah, how
低
to help
等的这
oneself
种
and
Good
倾向，
help others.
association, sadhu sangha.
那就是
And
萨
in
杜
and
桑
read
的
Prabhupada's
通
books
过圣人
carefully
联谊，并
and
且呢
discuss
仔
them
细
in
的
the
去阅读
association
他
of
的
others
书籍，
who like reading
并
Prabhupada's
且呢
books
和其
carefully
他的
and
人和那
like
些喜欢
you
阅
know
读他的书籍的
like-minded
人
souls can
去
progress
讨论。
sadhu sangha.
所以呢，这就
And
是通过
otherwise
萨
it's
杜桑
suffer.
的，
We don't like to suffer, and
否
so
则的话，我们
I
就
don't like the
会
suffering.
去
What's the
经历痛
alternative?
苦，就会受苦。我们
But sadhu
想
sangha
去继续
and
受苦，
spiritual
但是通过
instructions
萨杜桑嘎，
are
我
are
们通
replete,
过
and there's purification. There's faith
我们通过这
in
种
the
灵性
kings and the
的
faith in us
程
by
序，我
practicing
们会
according
得
to
到
instructions
净化。
received how to get to the remembrance of Krishna, which means minus the forgetfulness of Krishna. Because the problem
然
is
后像这些
forgetfulness
国
of
王们，他
Krishna,
们醒
the
悟到了，
blaming,
因为我
etc.,
们遗忘
etc.,
了
etc.
Krishna，所以呢，会受到
He has something further.
I appreciate very much what you mentioned, and also really appreciate when you pointed out
非
that
常的
the
欣赏，
problem is
感谢
not
你
a material
当你
problem;
列
it's
举
a
出来，
spiritual problem.
Yeah.
And
这
we
是不是物质的问
sometimes
题，是一
lose
种灵
that
性的
that
问题。
Oh,
fact.
not sometimes lose it.
有的时候我们，有的时候我们失去了这个，
You
不
know,
是说有
Prabhupada's,
的时候失
Prabhupada's
去。
way of saying this
他的
is repeating
他
Bhaktisiddhanta.
是
The
这么
only
说
thing
的，
that there's
他
missing,
就是
the
重
shortage
复
of in
了
this world is
提
Krishna
他说到了，
consciousness. And it's
他说
easy
到
to
了，
point
这
fingers
个物
at
质世界缺乏的
the
就是 Krishna
blaming
知觉。
or, internally, I'm a bad person and, I'm
内
undeserving
心
and
我想着，
woe
我
is
是个
me,
坏，
woo,
我是
woo,
个
woo.
不
So,
好的人。
or it's over, the problem is over there and it's just, anyway, there's so many other shelters. They're all false shelters.
有很多其他的庇护
The
所，但是
solution is
那些
Krishna
庇护所都
consciousness.
是虚幻的。但
Jivana
是
Jivana.
唯一缺乏的是 Krishna 知觉。
Beautiful visuals, Maharaj, in the PowerPoint. Notice this is the same picture that's the cover of the Founder Acharya book. Some of you were not here
请大家
yesterday.
去看，
Over on that
昨
table,
天大
there's
家没
some
有
Founder
请
Acharya
的
books
我
that we
们的
discussed yesterday.
创办
And if
Acharya
you
这
want,
本
you can
书的
pick one
人
up at
可
the
以
end.
去到
Go
那个
ahead.
地方去请。请你继续说你的
So,
问题。
very early in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna repeatedly
在国家
mentions
梵歌的前面
being,
的章节当中，Krishna 说
and
到，
continuously through the Bhagavad Gita, being equanimous through happiness and distress.
The which?
Being equanimous or being steady in both happiness and distress.
Equivalence, you're saying?
Equanimous.
就
Equipoised.
是苦乐
Equanimous.
平，
Equanimous.
苦乐如一。
What
第二
dictionary
句
are
时
you
间，苦
using?
乐如一。哎，你用了这个词
I
儿，
made it up.
I,
我自
that's a new word for me.
有点
Equanimous.
这 equanimous 这个词，这是对我来说是我第一次
Equanimity?
听到。
Okay, let's see. That's a word.
这是这个，
Equanimous.
这才是用的
Go
这
ahead.
个确切的词语。
I'm having fun.
那你
You
说
don't
吧，
mind.
继续说吧。
Some people, if I did this with, they'd be hurt. So I don't do it. Go ahead.
你继续说吧。
I make up words all the time, Marge. So, you
It's
know,
humbling. It's humbling. Go ahead.
It's very important, I feel,
这是非
that
常重要的
we
一点。
are careful about the
我们仔细的
happinesses and the upsides of life so that we can properly address ourselves with
去
downsides of life.
对待我们生活当中所发生的一
Because
切，
if
以
we
及
don't, it seems like we're subjecting ourselves to more,
生活的这个另一面。
you know, what are those
否则的
emotions
话，
are,
我
the
们就
fears
会
and
就会
so forth on
很大
when
程度
the
上受到
when it becomes really tough.
这种经历更多
And
的痛苦。
Krishna's instruction to the kings is ma bhaishta.
Krishna 在这训示这些
Don't
国
be
王们的时候
fearful. What would
他说到
Krishna's
了不要害
instruction
怕。
be to us
Krishna-
when we're experiencing those
对我们的
highs
训
of
示。
life?
Don't forget me. That would be
Krishna
Krishna's
说不要
instruction.
忘记我。
Are there examples in the
有
Bhagavatam
没有这方面
where
的
he
例子？在
says
博迦
where
来谈，
these kind of exchanges where he's reminding his devotees of that during the
Ramayana.
high points in their life?
During the high points.
在他们的奉献者的 high points 经历
Well, the high points are the entitlement for the devotees. The high points are the entitlement for those who are not avarice or greedy or wanting. Then Krishna gives to such devotees. But it doesn't require the reminder.
这个地方我没听明白。
I'm thinking of Arjun's realization
我在想 Arjuna 的觉
when
悟，
he's
想
coming
到
back to
当
Hastinapur with the news that
Tang-
Krishna departed
当他从
and giving the
Hastinapura 返回，
explanation that
然后了解到
I, the
Krishna 已
mighty
经
art,
领
you
记
know,
了，
same bow, same arrows, same chariot, and
他
I
同
couldn't
样的这个
repel
战车，同样的
some
弓
cowherd
箭。
men that were harassing the queens.
那个时候，当他遇到了
They defeated me.
一些牧牛
So
人的时
I
候，
was
他甚至
successful
都打
because
不败，
Krishna was
打
with
不过
me,
他们。
which is what Uddhava says.
当
If you're
Krishna
by
跟
the
我在一
side of
起的，
Bhima, he'll be victorious. That alone, he'll be victorious. Now, it took a little cleverness from Krishna's side, but by Krishna by his side, he was victorious.
那
So
么由于 Krishna
it's
的
living
在
life,
身边，
you
所以
know,
呢，
that
他
that's
会勇往不
it's the
胜，无往
remembrance
不
of
胜。
Krishna that means success. And forgetfulness of Krishna may
但
look
因为
like
他通过
success,
冥想着
but it's
Krishna，
not
所以他成功了。
success.
但是现在 Krishna 后来
That's
Krishna
one
隐记之
example
后，
that it's not
阿周呢，
exactly
他
the
遇到
response
那
to
些
your
牧牛
question,
郎
but
的时
it's an
候，甚至都
example.
打不过他们。
By remembrance of Krishna, no.
通过冥想，一直想着
When
Krishna。
Krishna gives his blessings, then anything becomes
当
possible,
Krishna 给出祝福的时候，他就
even for us
会
to become
给
acharya-like.
予我们这种力量。
Anyway, let me think some more about specific example that Krishna gives instruction to somebody who's on the upswing of prosperity, where he gives them some advice. Don't forget me. That's basically your question, right?
你的问
Someone
题
else?
是，我们来想一想，
Okay, I see two hands.
其他人有什么问题吗？
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So
Hare Krishna Guru
the
Maharaj。
kings who are there in the prison, they are
那这些国王被
they
囚
are
禁在
like
监狱里，
Lord is doing his activities and
The Lord is doing what?
Lord is busy in his activities, like not giving them the
That's
result.
because they didn't say he's busy. They said it's unfair.
Right.
We're good. He's bad. He's powerful. We're in prison.
这些国王们说了，
unfair.
我们是好人，然后
Not
那个
that
加尔萨
Krishna
呢
is
是个
busy.
坏人。
So, but the time period he has it for those kings who are there in the knowing that they are wishing the they send the message, but Krishna is not responding immediately. but during that time
他们
they are
他是说
in that
那
time
个他们拍信
patiently they
时
are
给 Krishna
practicing.
捎
That
去
is
了
also a
信
practice of
息，他们
bhakti,
的信
right?
息，
What
但是
they are
Krishna 并没
doing.
有予以立刻的
Rather
回
when
复
Krishna came back
回
and
应。
gave that practice
Exactly.
instruction.
You've understood correctly.
是的，你的理解是对
And no
的。
one is saying otherwise. So you're arguing against a straw man. They're engaged in bhakti, and that's what purified them. And
因为他们
that's the better plan that
因为
Krishna
后
had.
来 Krishna 通
Then
过这
their
个
plan
信
is hurry up
使
and come and
告诉
rescue us.
他
So we
们
may
说他很快
ask,
就会来。
why didn't
于是呢，
because
他们就
Krishna
立
could
刻
have,
专注于对
you
Krishna
know,
的奉拜
pronto.
当中，他们得到
Didn't
了
have to
这
stay in
种
Hastinapur
进化。
for any period of time. He could just get in his chariot and zoom off and finish Jarasandha.
Krishna 他可
Didn't
以
even have to
立
get in his
刻
chariot,
Krishna
just
他可以
finish
立刻驾着
Jarasandha, just
战
blink.
车，顷刻之间就结果了
He was
这样
giving them an
但是呢
opportunity
，Krishna
to go
他在
beyond their material
印
wants
着 Pastra 就待了好几个
because
月
he knew their hearts, and it
Ah.
worked. They went beyond.
要 Krishna 他
So,
知道
and
这
how do
些
you go
国王的
beyond?
内
By
心所
devotional
想，
service.
所以呢，
Their
他
remembrance of
们
Krishna while
Krishna
in
就是通
prison
过这种方式呢，使他
got,
们
got
从事对
picked up
Krishna 的服务。
by sending this Mahabhayishta message.
通过
Is that
言语
all right?
传递给他们，
Another
不要害
Another
怕
point.
这样的讯息，
So
让他们从事在内
Hold
心
into
从
the
事对
microphone a
Krishna
little
的
closer
奉
to
拜
the
服务。
speaking part of your body.
so the practice
请你把
does it respond
请你
the
把麦克拿近一
purification
点。
rate which they had it, that purification of those kings. It took some people it can take more time, some people can take lesser time.
Always.
那关于这个进化，有的人
Pass the
花的时
microphone
间
up
长，
so
有
this
的人
young
花
man
的
in the
时间
front row
短。
here.
是的，
I was wondering, so both
我在
for
想
Sanatana Goswami and for the
想到他
kings,
的 Goswami，
they
还有这些
asked
国王们，
for the process specifically and not the goal.
他们在请教这个程
And I'm
序。
wondering, because it seems
我
like
在想，
if I can just get the
好
goal,
像是
you know, why go through the whole process? Because the purpose of the process is the goal.
You want a shortcut? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. if I had the opportunity to get the goal without going through the whole
如果
process,
我们有
then
机
wouldn't
会
that
去
just
到
make
实
at
现目
least
标的话，
for me just makes more like
Sure, you have a better plan than Krishna's plan.
我们可不可以采
Welcome to the
取
club.
更多的一些细节的？
I guess like my question is
是
like
不是
why
你
did
的
they
计划
ask
比
for
Krishna
why
的
did
计
they
划
ask
还
for the
好？
process?
Because they understood,
为什
because
么
of
他们询
humility,
问这个关于程序的
they understood we're
问
not
题？
eligible.
因为他们明白自己没有资格。
You receive something very valuable with no effort.
当你获得了
You
某
don't
种
value it
价
the
值
same.
连城的很珍贵的东西的时候
And，they felt, with humility,
但是
we're
呢，
not
他们内
qualified.
心很谦卑，他们认为自己很没有资格。
Because I have like follow up on that point, but wouldn't receiving that goal also like make you qualified in the sense of if you receive the goal, then wouldn't you be able to?
You need to be qualified, that you just don't get stuck. Don't
你
spin
需
your
要
wheels.
你需要变
You
得
need to
有
be
资格，
qualified.
不要一
And they
蹴
knew
而
that
就。
they needed to be qualified.
而且这
They
些国王
needed the
们，他们
sadhana
知
to
道
get the
自己需
sadhya,
要
not
变
just
得有资
bestowed
格。
the sadhya upon me, please. One of my godbrothers spoke like this.
我的一个神兄弟说
You'll
过
get a
这
chuckle
样
out of
的
this
话，
one. Many times,
很多
people
次
that don't even know sannyasi
人们甚至都不
come
知
and
道
ask for
sannyasi
blessings.
前来，
It's as if the sannyasi
他们
is
前
a
来
blessings
寻
ATM.
求祝福。
There's no relationship. There's no prepare myself for the blessings. It's just give your blessing, give your blessing, give your blessing, give your blessings. And sadhus are meant
我
for
没有，
blessings ATM. But there's
他们
another
认为这个
idea,
萨度或是圣人就是
and that's,
要
become
给你祝福
qualified.
的，
And then
但
automatically,
是
not
我
mechanically,
们
but
需要变得有资
naturally,
格，
what follows is blessings.
而接下来一切就会接
One who
踵而至。
serves faithfully is a
当我们满
recipient of
怀信心
blessings.
的去做服务，
They're the
当我们
recipient
成
of
为
constant remembrance.
当我们成为这样的仁慈的接收者，
I could
那接下
elaborate.
来就会
I know one devotee. I'm looking at the clock. I'm going to
身
end
体
with
力
this.
行的话，我们就会
One devotee has an aspiration
永
that's
恒
way
的
up
铭
here,
记。
and they're not understanding the eligibility part.
这有一个奉献者，
So it's not coming, and it's not coming, and it's not coming, and it's not coming.
奉献者
And they're, you know, the aspiration is a spiritual aspiration, for
他
sure.
们的这
But
种激励呢，是渴望这种
it's
灵性
about
的
them.
激励，这是关于他们的，
Not about the person being served. It's
而
flipped.
不
The
是关
subject
于
has
这
become
个
the
被服
object, and
务
the object
的
has become the subject.
被服务的人。
And try to explain it to them, and you know, it bounces.
为了努力的向他们讲解、解说
So there's
明，
qualification to receive blessings, or to receive,
所
to
以呢，
change
要
the
想
word out
变
and say
得
Drita
有资格
Bhakti,
的话，我们
or
需
change
要
that
接
word out
受
and say
祝
Prema
福，
Bhakti. So
然
supposing
后
it's just
接下
dropped on your
来我
head,
才会这个 prima bhakti 才会
Supposing-
慢慢的揭示出来。
your reasoning is, if it's dropped on your head, that
你的
means you're qualified.
你的这种逻辑
If it's
是，
dropped on your head, but that's not how it comes. Mame kam sharanam. That's, you know,
Mame
from
kam
Krishna's
sharanam.
side, that's the price.
这
Then
是
Krishna delivers.
Krishna 的
But you
Krishna
know,
他是拯救
or,
者，
the definition of bhakti. There's the first half, and then there's the
还有
second
这
half.
个 bhakti 的一个命，一个定义
Anasaktasya vishayan.
说的这一段范文 anatasha 关于纯粹奉献服务的定义，
He's thinking. He wants
他
the
在思索着，
benediction dropped on his head.
他希望这
Srila
个
Prabhupada
祝
ki.
福从天而降。
Sure.
就是 Prabhupada Ki Jai。Hare Krishna， 各位亲爱的奉献者们，非常感谢大家，聆听今晚的晚课。那今天的晚课就到这里，明天早上
The recording has
我们
stopped.
继续。希望大家有一个充满 Krishna 知觉的晚上。Hare Krishna， 顶拜大家。
Can you just get everyone?
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna devotees, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna devotees, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. We have announcement from Nityapriya Mataji. Please.
Hare Krishna devotees, I just wanted to let you know that breakfast will be served downstairs in the basement, and feel free to either eat breakfast in the basement or come upstairs. We'll close the curtain so you can all eat upstairs as well. Hare Krishna.
Doesn't get messy. No.